welcome in, fans, to another episode of the Two Line Pass podcast. I'm Randon. With me, my two best buds, Dustin, and back from the injured reserve, we've got Ryan gracing us with his presence tonight. And Clubbers, it is with a heavy heart I announce that this may be the end of the line. We are recording as the game that holds the fate of the Utah Hockey Club in their hands. The Minnesota Wild are up on the San Jose Sharks. Dustin, the score check on that one?
It is currently, as we record, 7-4. As we hit record, it was 6-4. And as you were talking, they scored once again. It is now 7-4. We are going to need 4 third-period goals from the San Jose Sharks to have any hope. And I think
Macklin Celebrini hat trick.
The 1986 classic by Crowded House, Don't Dream, It's Over. I think that is meant more as an upbeat, like, don't dream that it's over. Like, they're trying to build a wall between us, but we know they won't win. But in my head, it's don't dream, it's over. We know they won't win. Talking about the Sharks tonight. So
you're going to feel real dumb when San Jose makes a comeback in the last 10 minutes of the third.
I mean, we have seen it firsthand, blowing a 4-goal lead in the third to the San Jose Sharks. But that game also went into overtime. That game also went into overtime, which is all the Minnesota Wild need. Which, to me, if Minnesota gets 1 point, that gets them up to 92, which is the maximum amount of what Utah could get. So, and then Utah would obviously, in my mind, hold the tiebreaker over Minnesota because they won the series. But I'm sure that there's a tiebreaker in there that I don't know about that is like fewer overtime losses or more wins, and it doesn't go to head-to-head. So, yeah, they need 1 point. An overtime appearance is enough to lock us out.
Well, what a bunch of jerks they are. Guys, it is the playoff dream. Looks like it is well and truly over, but we kind of knew that. You're looking back to that loss against Seattle back in March. That was kind of the beginning of the end for the playoff dreams. But we did battle hard, right? There was no quit in this team, and that's why we love them. But there's still season to be played, right? There's still games left remaining on the schedule, 5 to be exact, including the last home game of the season, which is, when this episode is published, it'll be today, on April 10th. And that one is going to be an incredible experience. I'm fortunate enough to be able to be there in person. There's going to be pregame parties. It's going to be amazing. And then after the season, we're, of course, going to start talking to you guys, talking to the fans, and getting your thoughts on how this season went and what you guys thought about it. But let's get back to the games that we have played since we last recorded. We had a loss to the Los Angeles Kings. We crushed the Winnipeg Jets. And then we just demolished the Seattle Kraken in probably the best game we've played. Certainly the most goals we've scored in a game and the second highest goal differential, second only to that shutout performance in Las Vegas, the 6-0 win back in November. Guys, what stood out to you over those 3 games in either the loss to the Kings or the 2 wins against Winnipeg and Seattle?
So I didn't watch the loss to the Kings, but I did watch the win over Winnipeg and the win over the Seattle Kraken, as they are lacking talent on that goddamn roster. The power play is the biggest thing I've noticed with the switch, where it went from being, the worst in the league for a stretch. What was it? Dustin would say, like, 1 for 29? Is that what you said?
I believe they went 1 for 26 at one point.
26?
They went 1 for even 26, then. And I believe they are, unless there was one that I'm forgetting last night that they didn't cash in on late, I believe they're 5 for their last 7. So they went 1 of 26, and they've fixed that all the way to 5 of 7.
Yeah, that's I like that bounce back, because 5 for 7 or 5 for 9, whatever, that's pretty much going to win you hockey games. If you're capitalizing that much on a power play in the NHL, you're good. You're going to make up for pretty much every even strength part of that. I also like that we're kind of like sticking together more as a team. I don't like that it's kind of taking this long. Like when Cooley kind of got shoved and then Kesselring went in immediately and grabbed the dude. Like, I was very happy about that. I knew it wasn't going to turn into a fight, but hey, somebody stood up for Cooley for once. He didn't have to stand up for himself. But that's been the big notice, I guess. Veggie's been solid as always. I feel bad for Michelli. You know, that guy can't get a shift to save his life. And back to the beginning of the podcast, Dustin, if there is a tie with points, it apparently goes fewer games played. I don't understand how that's the first rule or the first tiebreaker. Everybody plays 82, I thought. And then it's regulation wins, and then regulation and overtime wins. And it doesn't go past that.
It should be the head-to-head series, should be the first tiebreaker.
I agree, especially considering it's...
What can you do? Dustin, what stood out to you over these last few games?
I mean, I was going to say the power play. I do have to say the Veggie's play, despite starting game after game after game after game after game, he continues to perform at basically top 10 in the league levels, just phenomenally well in net. I also discovered that it's really, really cool to see one of your players score with blood dripping from their mouth from taking a high stick penalty earlier, just minutes before. So that was also really cool, seeing Yamamoto score on that power play, and I like it when the player who was fouled to bring about the power play is the one that cashes in on that power play. I really like that. But yeah, that's what I liked. That's what I caught on to. And I will say for as good as he's been, there is a small part of me, just because I know, even though we're technically alive in the playoff race, we're not making the playoffs. It would take a miracle of all miracles. So there is a part of me that's sort of glad that Minnesota's going to take care of it tonight, and we're not going to miss out because of a loss. We're not going to miss it. We're not going to get eliminated by Utah losing. And I'm happy. I'm happy that Veggie can get a rest. I'm just finally, I'm that guy who has come across his friends on the battlefield and lost a friend in a fight or something like that, and I'm just taking my pointer finger and my middle finger and just slowly closing his eyes and saying, you can rest now. So I'm glad that Veggie can breathe and kind of relax. But onward to the future.
If Veggie was an actual vegetable, he'd be a potato, because he's a workhorse and can do everything.
Yes.
He is a hardy man. His 21st start, he's likely to get his 22nd start. I cannot see a world, even without the playoff picture, I cannot see a world where he doesn't start the final home game of the season. So I fully expect him to make his 22nd start. And then I would be perfectly content just resting him for the rest of the year. I do not want to risk some freak injury or anything like that. Let him play his swan song. The Delta Center is going to go nuts for him. He has been, without a doubt, the MVP of this season and has basically put the team on his back when they have been down, and he has carried them this far. And I'm excited to see him in the future, but he's just been a workhorse. And it's interesting, you guys noticed the power play, which I think anybody with eyeballs noticed that power play. But I was looking at it a little deeper, and you guys were absolutely right how bad it was. So from the 24th to April 2nd, we had a net power play of 10.4, which is bad, but it's the bottom of the league, but not the worst. Well, at one point in that stretch, we were the second worst in the league with negative 4.2%. We had allowed more shorthanded goals than we had power play goals. That is how you get a negative net power play percentage, allowing more shorthanded goals. Strangely enough, only the New York Rangers were worse during that stretch. And so it was just horrendous, absolutely horrendous. But then you move the streak is broken late into the Kings game, a meaningless power play goal by Jack McBain. But that kind of spurred it on. And like you said, Dustin, 5 goals on the power play over the next 2, and they're at 50% over those 3 games, 75% over the last 2 games. Now, over the course of that, from February 24th to April, Utah actually went 5-4-1 thanks to their penalty kill, which has been outstanding all year, but was at almost 91% over that same stretch. So while our power play just cannot catch a break, our penalty kill was stepping up, which they have done all season overall for the entire season at 82.6%, and middle of the road, tied for 15th, almost exactly in the middle at 19.8 on the power play. And this team has kind of lived and died by the power play, and the problem is it has been feast or famine on the power play. I feel like all season long we've gone through these major stretches of it just sucking, and we talked about it, we joke on the podcast podcast about decline the penalty because it seemed like it was worse off. You're just chasing pucks back into the defensive zone the entire power play, and you can't get any offensive zone control, no offensive zone presence. But then you go through stretches where you're like this, 5 goals in 2 games, and it's just been feast or famine. Dylan Gunther's been one of those guys that has taken advantage of those power play opportunities. But this team has just, when the power play's on, which is pretty much a no-brainer, the team is just great. And so I would love to see, what do we want to see next season? Consistency. That's what we want to see, and I would love to see us stay consistently in that 23 to 25% on the power play, which would put us near the top of the league. I think 29% is where Winnipeg is at over the season. Just a crazy effort by them. But you know what? What my favorite? There's 2 favorite moments I had in like the shellacking against Seattle. Right? There's countless amounts of excitement going on there. But I have 2. The Yamamoto hit, when Yamamoto just drops the bomb on some guy. I don't even know his name. I can't remember his name. But Yamamoto just lays him out. Dustin, after he's got a bloody lip. And he just absolutely puts his body on the line and just takes him out. And then another thing that we have been saying all season, Ryan, you have been one of the most critical on this, is Lawson Krause is what, 6'3", 215? He finally...
6'4", no. He's bigger. He's like 6'4", 220, 225. The dude is a monster.
Yeah, and he finally gets physical enough to get chippy, and he finally fights. He fought a guy that was 6 inches smaller than him. Props to that guy for taking the fight. But Krause, in his first fight of the year, at least that I can recall, absolutely dominates. But that's what we wanted to see, right? That's especially once he's on the third line. Once he's not on the second line, which he was in Arizona, like he's no longer... he is a dual threat. If we get goals from him, that's great. But I would love to see him really start to engage in a grinded out, check heavy. I would like him to model his game after Jack McBain, to be honest. I think Jack McBain is one of those guys that is the prototypical offensively talented 4th line guy. And I would love to see Krause take a more physical approach to his game as the years go on, especially if we keep Krause for, long term. But that's just he's a 20 plus goal scorer before. He didn't quite get that mark, but he's been lighting it up recently. Lawson Krause has been on fire. For somebody that I've been hypercritical of his offensive play, he has been on fire, and some of highlight reel goals too. He's not putting the garbage away, even though I would like him to, but he is just sniping it, and it is a beautiful thing to watch. But I was really, really happy to see that Yamamoto hit and that Krause fight.
Don't forget,
third line. Go, Dustin.
Nicknamed the Sheriff by the team and fans for his tough physical play. Remember that one from the Wikipedia page.
I don't know why. Like, that's crazy. But that whole third line has the potential to be a terrifying line to go up against, with McBain and Krause being as big as they are, and Josh Doan being the dog that he is. Like, that line has all the potential in the world. But Lawson Krause doesn't have that attitude that McBain and Doan have night in and night out. Sure, he might talk a lot of shit and he might grab somebody. Dude, just start ragdolling people. You're that. Remember Lucic? You guys remember when Lucic, he'd hit anybody, your goalie? Do that, dude. Just
No, I agree with you. Let me ask you this one. Speaking of Jack McBain, he's a restricted free agent, has not, as of today, re-signed with the team. Do you guys think we get that done? We get that contract extension with Jack McBain? Is he on the team next year?
I don't want to be this guy, but it's going to break my heart when Jack McBain signs a 3-year deal with the New York Rangers in next season. He's got a Rangers face, and I feel like if they wanted to re-sign him, why not when you were giving Ian Cole a deal? You know what I mean?
Yeah, Dustin, it's kind of weird he hasn't re-signed. What do you think? What's your read on the situation on the Jack McBain? We're assuming the negotiations are ongoing, but as of yet, the restricted free agent Jack McBain has not re-signed.
I have no connections inside the front office, so I don't have a read on the situation. I just hope that he re-signs, because tweeting McBain gifs from The Simpsons every time he does something, whether it's a fight, whether he bashes somebody, and I get to post the gif of McBain throwing one person through another person, or just the ice to meet you gif when he scores. I just want him to be a clubber or a mammoth, probably next season would be my guess. But yeah, hopefully maybe they just left that one. McBain said, you know what, we've got a playoff push that I want to focus on. Let's handle the contract in the offseason, and they keep him around.
Well, guys, don't look now. As we talk about Jack McBain, some exciting developments. The Sharks have now pulled within 1. It is now 7-6. So we cannot rule out, with 10 minutes left to go in that game, the Sharks get 2 back.
Celebrating.
So we can see. We'll keep you posted. This podcast episode is likely going to go into the end of that game. So we'll keep you posted. We'll decide by the end of the episode if this really is the funeral for the playoff hopes or not. But speaking of playoff, do you guys want to take a look at the conference standings, see where we're at?
Dive us in, Randon. Dive us in.
All right, up here we've got, if you're listening to the audio-only episode, you are missing out on this beautiful graphic. But for all of the YouTube faithful out there, we've got the Western Conference standings. Now, the playoff format, in my opinion, needs to go back to the 1-8, but as it stands right now, all 3 teams in the Central have clinched: Winnipeg, Dallas, and Colorado. 2 of the 3 in the Pacific have clinched in Las Vegas and Los Angeles. It seems incredibly likely that the Edmonton Oilers will take that 3rd spot in the Pacific, which would mean now that's the 3rd straight time the Edmonton Oilers and the Kings are playing against each other in the first round. And then the St. Louis Blues, those damn streaking Blues, are secure so far in that first wild card spot. But if Minnesota wins tonight, then they'll be back tied. So really, the only thing that's going to determine this is, because I don't see the Golden Knights catching Winnipeg in points, so it's really a wild card. Is it going to be the Blues or the Minnesota Wild? Because if the Winnipeg Jets maintain their first in the West, that means they will play the 2nd wild card, and the Las Vegas Golden Knights will play the 1st wild card. So will that be St. Louis? Will that be Minnesota? And then you've got Utah, their highest point total that we've talked about in at least in Turney's reign, and very, very much exciting. But they will finish 6th in the Central this year, pretty much regardless of what happens. So unfortunate how good the Central was. But guys, looking at the Western Conference, what do you kind of project? Is it Winnipeg's to lose? Are they going to flame out in the first round again? Who do you got out of the West?
Well, Winnipeg has to prove all of us wrong, because for 2 or 3 years now, Connor Hellebuck has just not had a team around him show up in the playoffs. And even him, he's not, I don't know, maybe he's not great in playoffs. He doesn't seem too good. But I feel like Dallas is going to probably run away with their series. But my money's going on St. Louis. I feel like they're getting hot at the right moment, and the Blues team has already proven once in their years what happens when they get hot at the last part of the season. They can run their way to a cup. So as of right now, I think St. Louis is going to be the one to take the West.
There's still a part of me that's just screaming out, Dallas. I want Dallas to win the cup. Let Dallas win the cup. I want to see Dallas win the cup. And it's very hard to silence that voice inside of me. Right now, I think, obviously, St. Louis is playing the best hockey out of anybody in the entire league. But I would worry a little bit about maybe they're burning through all of their gas right now and won't have any left over for the playoffs. I don't want to say Winnipeg, because that sounds too easy, right? That's just going chalk and saying, the best team in the league is going to be the one that makes the most sense, though. But I'll stay true to my roots and say Dallas is going to come out of the West.
Not a bad prediction. I think it's Dallas's season as well. I think Winnipeg will absolutely run out of steam. I will say that I think the Kings have the best chance to finally get the monkey off their back and beat the Oilers. However, the Oilers have had the luxury of being able to rest their starter, since there is nobody really. I don't think that the Calgary Flames are going to catch them. But they're ready to to the Kings.
While they do have home ice advantage, they will be the only team in the playoffs who have a losing record on the road. So they would have to be completely perfect at home, and I would believe more in basically any other playoff team to go into LA and steal one than I would in LA to be able to go on the road and take one themselves, unless they perfectly held serve in every series.
I don't think Edmonton can beat LA in LA. There's not a damn chance. They're so good at home. Like, they're the best home team over the last, 5 years. But on the flip side of that, they have the worst road record of any team over the last 5 years. So it's both sides of it. But I feel like any of the other teams in the West could not easily, but they have a chance to beat or Los Angeles at home. But with McDavid hurt, whatever he's doing, and side note, the only reason Darnell Nurse is the most expensive player on the ice is because he's the most overpaid player in the NHL. It's not his fault Edmonton threw a bag at him. It's not his fault.
No, I don't blame any player who takes the money and runs. A lot of defensive contracts inflated around the same time that Darnell Nurse was signed. But we'll see how the West plays out. I want to highlight that 110 points from the Jets, because let's take a look at the Eastern Conference. And there's one thing I want to bring up here. As we look at the Eastern Conference pretty much set in stone with the Montreal Canadiens on their streak. That wild card 2 spot in the East was wide open for so long, and it took so long for somebody to finally separate from the pack, but the Montreal Canadiens have. They just need 2 more points to clinch that second wild card spot. But the Washington Capitals at 107 points, 3 back from the Winnipeg Jets. Now, why is that important? Because some of you may know of the President's Cup curse. Ooh, spooky. The President's Cup is awarded to the team with the most points in the season, and the President's Cup winner has not won the Stanley Cup since the Chicago Blackhawks in 2013. And over the last 40 years, they're about 25 to 27% of President's Trophy's winners goal to win the Stanley Cup, right? As the President's Trophy, you are the favorite going into the playoffs, and what we've seen in the past is a lot of early exits too. So not just the fact that it's not that they're getting there and losing, it's that they're bombing out early. And that's, I think, what has heightened the curse. I think most famously is probably that Tampa Bay loss that created the meme, this isn't what we wanted, this isn't what we expected or whatever. That just became a internet meme. But watch that closely. If Winnipeg wins that President's Cup, we'll be talking maybe about that curse getting extended. But a look at the Atlantic, 3 teams that have kind of had Utah's number this season. Though we played them all tough and all close. The Maple Leafs, the Lightning, and the Panthers. It's really, I think this is why it's so unfortunate, the way the playoff standings, or the playoff matchups work, is while I love to see the Lightning and Florida at it for the Battle of Florida in the first round, it sucks that it's in the first round, right? That's unfortunate to me. Because Tampa Bay, Florida, they would crush the Devils. They'd obviously, they wouldn't play the Senators, the Canadians, being the 8th seed anyway, but you guys get what I mean. It being in the first round, I think takes a little bit of the oomph off of that matchup. Washington has looked, I think, incredible all season. Ovechkin obviously broke the goal scoring record this year just a few days ago, and they have, I think, more than any other team, exceeded expectations for where we thought they would be. I think a lot of people maybe picked them as a fringe playoff contender, but really the season was all about getting Ovechkin the record, and they had no expectations to be as good as they are. And they have just been dominant, even with Ovechkin off the ice. Glass shins Ovechkin, they call him, after taking that hit from McBain. And Washington didn't miss a beat. They did not miss a beat with Ovechkin off the ice. So that's going to be an interesting team to see if they can stay hot and ride that into the playoffs. But one thing, hockey fans, Utah hockey fans, one thing you should all be cheering for out of the East is you want the Toronto Maple Leafs to lose in the first round like we know they're going to. They don't have to play Boston, which has got to be good. You got to feel good if you're Toronto, missing Boston. But if Toronto misses out on the second round, Mitch Marner is gone. Mark my words. If they lose in the first round, Mitch Marner is gone because he is going to get the scapegoat and he is out. And who's going to swoop him up? The loving arms of the Utah Hockey Club. Join us, Mitch Marner. Join us. Come to the winning side. Win a cup with us. You're not going to do it in Toronto. Guys, what do you think of the East?
It's a lot closer. You'll notice, like, all of the teams are way, way, way closer in points. Whereas you have Dallas, Winnipeg, Vegas, Colorado just running away with the West. But yeah, I think the Capitals have nothing to lose. They had nothing to lose the whole year. Like you were saying, the only goal, like team goal, was for Ovi to get 895, and they got that. And they went from being the 8th seed last year with a minus 30 goal differential in the playoffs to, what does that say, plus 66? So that's a 90 goal improvement over a season. That's insane, especially when you're led by a 39-year-old Russian dude who was built in a laboratory for the sole purpose of breaking Wayne Gretzky's goal record. But I think Toronto isn't going to make it out of the first round. Unless, who are they going to play? Minnesota, or Toronto, or Montreal?
So Toronto would play Ottawa as it stands right now. And the Capitals would play Montreal.
The Battle of Ontario would be fine, I guess. I mean, is Ottawa in Ontario? I don't know. I think it is.
They're over on the East.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it
doesn't
seems
matter.
right. Niagara Falls.
I feel like
is in
Ottawa
Ontario.
has the best chance of upsetting Toronto with Ullmark in net and the psychotic Brady Tkachuk. I think that's a team that can handle. You know what I mean? If anybody's going to surprise Montreal or surprise Toronto, it's probably the Senators. But I don't know. I think the Capitals probably are going to win the East. I'm hoping they win the East so Ovi can win the Cup and then retire. That would be cool. I mean, unless he wants to just go out one more year and wait for Crosby to be done, and they can both go out on top and get their numbers retired. But Florida's banged up. They have so many people injured right now. And, I mean, Tampa Bay is Tampa Bay. You can never really count them out. I didn't even realize Jersey was making the playoffs until this podcast started when we were talking about it before that. But yeah, probably Washington.
Yeah, my money's on Washington and Tampa Bay out of the East. Dustin, any favorites you're liking out of there?
I mean, I think it would be silly to overlook Florida as the defending champs. I mean, they know how to win in the playoffs, obviously. I like Carolina. When I watch Carolina play hockey, I just like the brand of hockey that they play. I think they're good enough on the defensive side of the ice to win. And the only thing that sticks out in my mind as I look at the standings in the East is the fact that Utah would only be 3 points out of the playoffs if they played in the East instead of the freaking murderer's row that is the West. That sucks, but yeah, I like Florida and Carolina for some reason. Carolina.
Sorry to interrupt. San Jose tied the game. It is 7-7, baby. I told you it would feel real dumb, Dustin.
There is 50 seconds left in the game, but they've tied it.
Tie game.
Pull the goalie, San Jose. Pull the goalie. You can't lose in regulation. Not like this. Not like this.
Scored by Will Smith. He's going to step on stage, smack Chris Rock right in the face, and score a game-tying goal to keep Utah's hopes alive.
I did predict Celebrini to have a hat trick, and Macklin Celebrini does have a hat trick. So this is just a great podcast for everybody.
Joel Eriksson-Ek has 4 goals tonight for Minnesota. So a lot of scoring. So while Utah the other night had 7 goals from 7 different players, this game has a whole bunch of scoring from just these same 2 dudes.
Boy, this one is tough. This one is tough. If it goes into overtime, that's going to be worse, I think, than if Minnesota just won outright. But 7-7, what a game! What a game for the fans. And Marc-Andre Fleury's last home game of his career, man, he lets in 7.
I mean, they're going to make the playoffs and play at home again. So
He's going to get ran out of the building. He's awful.
He's not going to start once in the playoffs.
No?
Gustafsson is. They're playing him. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're just giving Fleury his last.
Marc-Andre Fleury's.
They run like about a 2-1, but I know in the playoffs they're just gonna run with Gustafsson instead of Fleury.
I feel like they were saving him during the regular season. You know what I mean? Because like Fleury's good enough. You as a backup, you can let him take a little bit off of Gustafsson, knowing you're gonna make the playoffs.
This one, I believe, is now official. There it is. That game has gone.
Chances.
That has gone to overtime.
Season, the hopes and dreams are over.
This is what we get for leaving our hopes in the San Jose Sharks' hands. This is what we get.
Never trust a shark. That's what I say. Sharks are bad. Sharks are mean.
Sharks aren't friends. Sharks are food.
Yep, just saying. Shark fin soup should not be outlawed. If it is, unoutlaw it. If it's not, then go eat some shark fin soup. That's my advice to all the listeners out there.
I hear it's
guys,
delicious.
Utah Hockey Club playoff hopes are gone. 5 games remaining, though, and we will be with you every step of the way. Dustin, Ryan, any closing thoughts before we get on out of here?
Well, I will share this just because now that the playoff dreams are officially over, the season is, for lack of a better term, dead. So I will share, because the mood is a little somber and sad now. I'll share a story. Told my son to clean his bedroom today, and then when I went to check it, I realized that every single time he's been cleaning his room, he's just been shoving everything under his bed. Right? So I lift up the mattress, I lift up the box spring, I set him against the wall, and I pull everything out. I said, okay, now actually clean. Put it all away where it goes, and I leave. He then proceeded to take the box spring, put it back on the mattress frame, and start shoving everything right back under his bed to clean his room. So if you're a parent and you've experienced the same type of thing, just know that you're not alone. And I felt seen. I sent that in a tweet earlier today and got a couple of people saying my son's done the same thing. So I feel seen, and hopefully that gave a little bit of a chuckle to some hockey fans that are probably a little sad as they listen to this.
I just want you to let your son know that he is seen from another child that used to push everything under his bed to clean it. So I get it. I get why he does it. It's effective until you get caught.
Yeah.
That's where all my things go, under the bed. That's where they go. Why is a bed frame raised if you're not going to use that for storage?
Exactly. That's just wasted floor space at that point, Dad. What are we doing?
We did at one point. We had like I guess it would be called a loft bed, where it's like a bunk bed, where the bed was on top, but there was no bed underneath. It was just like a desk sitting area. Maybe we ought to rock that again for him, so he has that area to use and sleeps up above it. And that takes away the desire to shove everything under the bed. So not take 2 birds with 1 stone, as they say.
While we're talking about happy childhood moments to break the sadness of the playoff dream, so Ryan and I, you guys know, are brothers, and we had wooden bunk beds. And what we do, you put a blanket up top and put it over, and it makes it a covered wagon. And we would play, like we were Wild West cowboys riding the covered wagon. So if you're a kid out there, or you have a kid out there that has a bunk bed, and they have not gone to the wagon train, get them on the wagon, hop in there with them, let your kid out, guys, because that's what it's all about, is having fun and letting that inner kid just get out and have fun. That's what it's all about.
That's what's wrong with the kids nowadays. None of them are playing Western in their room with their covered wagon bunk beds. More kids need that.
I'm all about it. I'm all about the kids having fun. Guys, thanks so much for joining me tonight. Dustin, Ryan, I'm Randon. Guys, thanks so much for listening. We appreciate you. Everything you've done for the podcast, all of your interactions, all of the likes, the retweets, and everything. Thank you for being fans of the greatest hockey franchise that has or ever will exist, the Utah Hockey Club. Go Utah! We'll see you at the Delta Center April 10th. Tonight, I'll be there. Everybody will be there. Go Utah. Have a great night.